Welcome back. This is the second out of three exciting, scintillating segments of the DMZ America podcast for May 31st, 2023. That year still sounds surreal to me, Scott. I'm Ted
Yeah,
Rall coming to you from the left.
I'm Scott Stantis coming to you from the surreal right.
In
Yeah,
the year 2023.
it doesn't fall trippingly from the tongue. It doesn't look right when you write it down. It's just
It
weird.
does not. It's very fucking strange. So,
I just had a lizard go by my window, by the way, who did this little mating dance. Am I like, should I be offended?
just get a flamethrower drone
That's your
and be done with
answer
it.
to everything. Yeah,
Problem solved. With all the money. Look, dude, if I knew how little you were paying in property taxes, I would have been like, buy a flamethrower drone with that all the savings. You could have a small fleet by now.
I could. No barking dogs in my neighborhood.
I can't believe, by the way, I'm a little disappointed that flamethrower drones haven't appeared in the Russia-Ukraine war. Just because they're so cool.
I did, and we didn't have this on the list, but it's a small, quick subject, I promise. And that is, news reports out today. A friend of mine is staying with me who happens to be Cuban American, so he follows news about Cuba. Cuban troops are being deployed and going to be trained in Belarus.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a comment on this, or do you have a view on this?
That. I mean, is that confirmed?
Yes, yeah, it was. He showed me three different news.
Well, Belarus sources. Is, of course, for people who don't pay attention to these things, a very close ally with Russia. In fact, they are kind of a two-nation bloc. They are kind of like they have Belarus and Russia have an agreement like the EU nations where there's no border checkpoint between Belarus and Russia. You can just drive across the border like you're going from France to Germany. No one will stop and check your passport. So it's a very close diplomatic relationship. And so effectively, that means these troops are being trained with a view possibly to being deployed against Ukraine.
That's the thought, which is, I mean, we all knew this was going to, spill over sometime.
Well, I mean, escalation has been happening, right? I mean, the U.S. has provided now, has signed off on providing F-16 fighter jets. There have been drone attacks against Kyiv as well as Moscow proper.
Which made me kind of giggle this morning when you have Putin saying this is a terrorist action. It says, you motherfucker, you've been doing it to Kyiv and other parts of Ukraine for the last year.
Remember, what you do, what happens to you is terrorism. What you do to others, they have it coming. That's how this works. That's how war is. I mean, the Ukrainians have the same exact narrative, but it's flipped, right? By the way, I don't know if you noticed we should get into the state of the presidential race, but the New York Times, I think I sent you the article over the weekend during the Memorial Day week media dump, which you might not have noticed because of your retreat, finally admitted that Nazis are an important part of the Ukrainian army. And they have basically the troops that the Russian ethnics who entered Russia proper in Belgorod the other day and crossed the border and did that raid and then were pushed back across, that they're far-right nationalists with swastika tattoos and, a black sun neo-Nazi patches. The leader of these forces has been identified by the Anti-Defamation League as a neo-Nazi. And I love the rhetoric in the article. They said, this is very awkward for Ukraine because it feeds into Putin's narrative that Ukraine's military has a lot of Nazis in it. And I'm like, it feeds into that narrative because they're Nazis and there are a lot of them.
In the Ukrainian army.
It feeds into that narrative because that narrative is not inaccurate. So there's no other country in the world that has Nazis serving with Nazi insignia in their military. You might have like a, Nazi tattoo on your ass and be a U.S. Marine, but you don't wear a swastika on your uniform.
I don't know what to say to that. So let's talk about
moving
the GOP race.
All right,
I did. You're right. I got the story and I didn't read it because I was on the way to that retreat. So I'll have to.
No big deal. Yeah, you'll look it up anyway. Worth checking out. Okay, so the state of the race. Look, let's not even bother with the Democrats if you're okay with that, because I feel like nothing much is happening. Basically, it's still Williamson, RFK, and Biden, and Biden's getting his ass kicked in a race that he should completely own, given who his opponents are. RFK has 21% of the vote, I believe.
Yeah, I saw 19 to 21.
All right. And Marianne has about 9-10. So roughly 1 out of 3 Democratic voters just doesn't want Joe Biden. I suspect that number would be higher if the alternatives were more famous, better known people. But anyway, although the Kennedy name definitely means something.
Oh gosh, yeah.
But on the Republican side, there's serious movement. So DeSantis has announced,
yes,
and in keeping with the unwrapping of his $200 million war chest in his super PAC, and the big, he had a debacle, right? He launched on Twitter Spaces, and basically the thing went down for 20 minutes, and nobody saw him. But he did give a wide-ranging interview on Fox News. So with all of this huge explosion of publicity, he went from being behind Trump 56-16 to being behind Trump 58-14. So
well, that's the problem with at any time you hear the phrase DeSantis charm offensive. I just he's miserable. He's a horrible someone. And there's an article over the weekend, I can't remember if it was the Post or the New York Times, that had a story saying that he has the charm. He's Nixonian, and he really is.
He is, although I think Nixon in many ways was a far more complicated and interesting person. In terms of DeSantis is a thug. And when it came out that he'd been a torturer at Guantanamo,
did you hear he owned that today?
Oh no, I didn't hear it.
Yeah, go check it out after the podcast.
What did he say?
Oh, he's proud to have served, but he's also not proud that the military has gone totally woke and pronoun crazy.
Oh yeah, like when they were doing the rectal feeding at Guantanamo, when they gave them like rainbow flag like packaging in the stuff they like shoved up their ass. That was so woke. And
damn it.
Yeah.
I want my country back.
Oh my God. So he's miserable. And look, Scott, can we just agree that DeSantis is not going to be the Republican nominee?
I said this before. I've been saying this for months.
You have?
No, the only
I'm just checking back in.
Going to be, unless he drops fucking dead, the only nominee for the Republican Party is going to be Donald J. Trump.
Interesting question. Okay, Donald Trump drops fucking dead right now.
Oh, okay. Now it gets interesting.
I'm not sure DeSantis will be the nominee. Okay, so there's also Mike Pence is getting in.
Yeah.
Of course, he makes one long for DeSantis. There's who else? Who are we forgetting here?
Shoot. Chris Christie just announced shockingly.
Asa Hutchinson is in already.
Yeah, explain to me Chris Christie.
Rick Scott.
Again,
some people think Rick Scott's the sleeper because look, he's Republican and black.
Horse shit. It's not going to happen. Donald J. Trump. Okay, are we going on the hypothesis that Donald J. Trump, was caught, having sex with
dog fucking?
Yeah,
Clovis raping.
Yes, and none of that would impact his polls.
Clovis raping could be a serious problem.
Well, he got clawed and it got infected and he died. So there's Donald Trump is out of the picture. Who becomes the Republican frontrunner? I think DeSantis, just if you look at the numbers, initially, but I don't think.
Sure.
I mean,
I think it's a wide open field then.
Oh gosh, yeah, and maybe that's what they're hoping for. Maybe they're looking at that big fat orange blob and thinking, well, maybe he may not be long for this planet.
Well, I mean, I wonder what all of their. I mean, the only person who I really know what they're on about, as the Brits say, is Nikki Haley. She's running to be Trump's vice president.
No question.
That's clearly true, and Trump knows it, which is why the two of them have not mixed it up with each other at all. There's clearly a non-aggression pact there. So then it's like, okay, why is Mike Pence running? I mean, Mike Pence has no national. I mean, the MAGA people absolutely hate him because he certified the vote against Trump. And he's like, what? I mean, No.
Ted, if he
Can we just
doesn't
say-
run,
why is he running?
he has to stay with mommy in Indiana. Have you
Mother.
been to Mother. Have you been to Indiana?
I have. I'm afraid so. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I've
passed
driven
through as
across
quickly
it.
as possible, but I did have to go give a speech there once in Indianapolis. Couldn't believe it. Oof. Okay. So, but still, I mean, why is he running? Do you know?
Because what else is there to do? In all seriousness,
I don't know. I mean, I could see him like seriously as like provost at like Indiana University or, something like that.
and that'll come in time, but he had a taste of that world. And I have to imagine it's pretty intoxicating,
Yeah, but he's got to know he stands no chance.
These guys, the ego and I mean, and the intelligence, quite frankly, they don't know that, Ted.
Okay.
And they think,
why Rick Scott,
yeah.
I think actually might have some chance in the Trump.
Why do you think that?
First of all, he's from an important state, like he's from South Carolina, just like Nikki Haley. He has he's almost like a black Obama. He's like a Republican Obama, but he's almost like a black Obama.
Let's not stay with that first thought.
Keep to that. I'm rolling with it. He is almost like a GOP Obama, though, in that like he's calm, he's chill, and he's very civil, which I think some GOP voters would like to see the old-fashioned, George H.W. Bush type Republican come back, like golly gee Whitakers. I mean, I don't think he's going to be the nominee, but because I think the party's too racist to ever allow a person of color to become their president. But then we're talking Asa Hutchinson. That's just a joke. That's like an anomaly.
Yes.
And then he has a face that looks like he was run over by a car. And then there's and so who else? Oh, Chris Christie. So look, I think I like Chris Christie as a person. I love him as a pundit. He's the only good thing on the Sunday morning talkies. I tune into This Week with Stephanopoulos on ABC, hoping that Chris Christie will be on the panel because his insights are the best. He's a great pundit. He was a shit governor when he left the governorship of New Jersey after two huge scandals, Bridgegate and Beachgate. He had an approval rating of 9% in his state. He's lucky he wasn't lynched. And so, like,
I'm just going to say something about rope not strong enough, but please continue.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm wondering, like, I know his argument is, I can trash talk Trump, no one else can. I'm not sure. I mean, there's trash talking, and then there's, Trump is pro.
Now
I could trash talk Trump.
Yeah, but
he could.
I think he could, but I also think that Trump would just come back and
eat him.
Carl, yeah, God, him back. That's what you should have as a pie eating contest between those two. I'd pay to watch that.
Yeah, I'd pay $20 to watch
that. So, with all these candidates, are we looking at? Remember the debate stage in 2016 when you had all of those candidates like Marco Rubio and, gosh, I'm trying to. Can you? Oh my God, I'm
Ted
having
Cruz, Herman Cain. Who else?
It was packed. It was packed. And it really played. So Donald Trump won primaries because they were all winner take all, or most of them were. Mm-hmm. He'd win primaries with 30% of the vote.
That's right. And this is going to happen all over again. All this has happened before, and all this will happen again. Don't you think?
Oh, no, that's why I mentioned it.
They're playing into his hands.
Yeah. So the more that enter, the more that he's going, shit. Yeah, absolutely.
The more the merrier. Come on board.
Are they going to have, I mean, I can't imagine. What's her name for the Looney Tunes who lost the governorship in Arizona?
Oh God.
Kate
Winslet. No, I don't remember her.
God, I'm glad if you're listening to this podcast, we're glad you came for the political expertise that is Scott and Ted, because I can't remember. I was just reading about her this morning.
Carrie Lake, that's it.
Carrie Lake.
Wasn't she like a weather lady or something?
She was a news anchor, for years. I think she's not running because she wants to be Trump's vice president, and so
she won't be. It's Nikki.
You think so? Why?
Nikki's perfect. Do you remember the Fits the Suit episode of the Brady Bunch? Did you watch the Brady Bunch? Were you a Brady Bunch person? Or are you too old?
I was not.
All right. Well, there's a scene. There's an episode in which an impresario hires Greg, who's the older son, to be in a band, kind of like the Monkees. And basically, it all goes really well until ultimately it all falls apart. And it becomes known that the only reason he was not hired for his talent, but that he happened to fit the suit that they had. He fit the suit. And Nikki Haley fits the vice presidential suit. She ticks off everything that he wants. I mean, he wants to balance. Think about Trump doesn't balance his tickets ideologically or geographically. He balances them demographically. So with Pence, he was trying to balance his sort of MAGA insurgency with old school, boring country club and evangelical conservatism. Those are the three main parts of the GOP. And Trump and Pence could bring the two without overshadowing Trump with his shining charisma. So Nikki Haley also, she's a little more charismatic than Pence, but not more than Trump. She's younger, he's old. She's a person of color, but not dark. She's a woman. The GOP hasn't had a woman vice president. It would look good. She's kind of a person of color who isn't really a person of color. You know what I mean? It's like, it's perfect for the GOP.
Okay. I can see. I mean, I can totally
she'll
see
be
that.
on the short list. I mean, he may not choose her, but she'll be one of five who's strongly.
Well, she also has another thing going for her. She's subservient.
Well, right.
And
which, by the way, a vice president should be.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of a lousy quality to bring up to the presidency if circumstances demand that.
Yeah, but that's the job. I mean, that's how it is.
All right.
So I don't know. I mean, so state of the race, Trump remains in full command.
Oh gosh, yeah.
He's in now a field with, by my count, 7 main contenders. He's at 58% or 56% of the vote. I mean, man, he is sitting super pretty for the nomination. What happens in the general, no one can say. But
that's been interesting. Obviously, it's way too early, but I mean, to take these polls too seriously. But I want to point out to Ted that the recent poll, I just looked at him yesterday on Real Clear Politics, and Biden is behind both Trump and DeSantis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I had seen that. Look, I don't think Joe Biden will be the nominee.
You said that. Yeah, no, I don't know what he comes into the convention, just says, I can't do this, or I've got.
Maybe not. Maybe he accepts the nomination and then the bait and switch happens later, before South Carolina primary.
I'm thinking. I mean, it's just. I mean, let's face it. The last 14 years in politics, you really can't say no. That could never happen.
No, I mean, anything could happen. I mean, yeah. Anyway,
I think it would happen at the convention if it was going to. That seems to be makes the most sense. It gins up a lot of excitement. They're having a late convention this year.
Where's it at? Oh yeah, it's in Chicago.
Yeah.
Well, last time was so great. You can see why they'd want to do it again.
Actually, last time they was Clinton. They've had conventions there since. Yeah, it was Bill and getting renominated.
92 was New York.
Yeah.
So yeah, the 96 convention was boring by definition because there was never any doubt about the outcome.
You don't think Bob Dole had a chance? Bob Dole. Bob Dole.
Well, I mean,
I covered that convention. I was there. I mean, you talk about. Do you know how exciting a Dole delegate is? This was the dullest, worst convention. I mean, usually they're pretty exciting. They're pretty interesting. And a lot of the big money people put together these phenomenal parties. Like one year, United Tobacco had a yacht and literally had cups of cigarettes, of course, and cigars, premium cigars. And I like a cigar now and then. So it was pretty awesome.
Wow.
And a host bar. So it was a
Too
good
bad
night.
the Sackler family wasn't there to like give out free opioids.
Well, I'm not sure they weren't, because that would explain the enthusiasm for Senator Dole.
Well, it was just his turn. It was his turn. That's all. All right.
Real quick story on that. On the 96 convention, we were walking around. I was walking around with Matt Davis on the floor, and we walked underneath the where the former presidents were sitting. They had who was up there?
Thomas Jefferson,
HW, and Ford. And Ford looked at us and gave us this real weird look. And then he had a stroke that night.
What?
Yeah, it was the damnedest thing.
You're saying you gave President Ford?
I think we can blame Matt
He
Davis.
Who ended our long national nightmare, a stroke?
Oh, one of the great lines in political history. Our long national nightmare is over.
My other favorite thing is, remember when he invited the press to tag along for his first day in office, just to show like, hey, at least for the first day, I'm not like grifting. And he was, and I remember in the morning shows, like, whatever, this Good Morning America, if that existed then, they showed him waiting for his toast to come out of the toaster. Yeah. And they said, even the president must await his toast. I'm like, yes, because he's not immune from the laws of physics.
It was an English muffin, by the way. Why I remember this, I have no earthly idea.
I love English muffins. And it was, but anyway, I remember there was a band in the 80s called President's Breakfast, named after this incident.
And he left because he was still living in Georgetown, I think, because he never really, he was only vice president for like a week, or, I mean, I'm exaggerating, of course,
not for long. No,
it was really, so he never moved.
Yeah, it was very strange, right? Like Agnew resigned, right, due to the Maryland milk scandal. Then Rockefeller was appointed to replace him.
No.
Who? No,
Ford.
That's right.
Ford replaced Agnew.
Oh, right. Ford replaced
Agnew. Nixon resigns.
Then Nixon resigns. Ford appoints Rockefeller. Rockefeller dies in flagrante delicto on Central Park West.
On top of his assistant, who had to call her friend to get him off of her.
Because he was kind of Christie-like in his portliness.
Ugh. Poor
That's
Happy.
how I want to die. Crushed by a heavy dude.
Well, she didn't die. He did.
She could have.
She could have. Apparently, she could still dial a phone. Apparently.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Thank God. She was lucky she was able to get to it because it was pre-cell phone. She had to get to the wall.
Well, you know why she could get to the phone? I mean, I'm sorry. I know this. This is going to get a little graphic, people.
All right, let's hear it.
He was humping her on his desk. She was lying down.
Oh.
He was on top.
Convenient.
Doing. Yeah. Well,
reach over for the hole puncher.
As it were. Yeah, indeed. So the phone was right there.
Oh, that's interesting. I always had somehow I imagined them like in a 4-poster bed, like in Harry Potter. Like, I don't know why. I just imagined that Rockefeller would sleep. He was the kind of man who would only sleep in a 4-poster bed. But,
well, they weren't doing sleeping. They were.
That's true.
They're doing the sex, and
that's right. Well, he died the way every patriotic American should die.
On top of an underpaid assistant.
Yeah. Why pay more? All right.
Do you remember his wife? Do you remember his wife's name?
Happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so sad.
Very unfortunate. Yep. And with that, we'll leave that segment. All right. We'll be right back, guys.
Please. Bye.
Please stay here. I know you don't want to.
We got one more. We do.
I know it'll be better. We promise.